we've now come to the end of 2019 and I've seen 79 new releases either in cinema or on Netflix of 2019. And I said this year there was a lot of movies that I thought were going to be crap but turned out to be really good. So this is my list of those movies where I went in, didn't expect much and left pleasantly surprised. Now these aren't my picks for which are going to win the Oscars or what are my top 10 favorite of the year, which that list is coming. But these are the movies I just didn't expect much of them, and going into them I didn't expect much, but leaving I left pleasantly surprised. And coming in number 10, I've got Shazam. Shazam was a movie that, coming off the trailers, I didn't know really what to expect, because they were coming off like Aquaman, which kind of got the tone perfectly, where they had comedy and they also had kind of the dark and gritty, because DC said we're not going to do jokes, we're going to be dark and gritty, and I didn't really mind, I didn't really care. But then when I seen this, it looked like they were getting rid of the dark and gritty completely, and I was just going for comedy, but it didn't look like comedy. It looked more like slapstick comedy. So I was like, okay, I wasn't really that intrigued with it. But actually leaving it, because I went to go see an advanced screening of it, and I was so pleasantly surprised. Because this movie is not what I thought it would be at all. The comedy itself is hilarious. I laughed multiple times throughout this movie. Zachary Levi as Shazam he's probably, I can't, as of now he's only been in one movie. I can't see anyone else playing him. I just thought he played this role so well, being such a naive, I think the character who, like Billy Batson, I think he's 12 and he's able to play a naive 12-year-old so well. And the relationship he has with his also roommate, I don't know the kid's name, but he's also with It Chapter 2, the relationship him and Zachary Levi as Shazam has it's phenomenal. It's very, I believe it so much, and the whole family Shazam is something I didn't expect. I seen the pops, but I didn't know what they were, so I'm not very familiar with the Shazam lore, so I didn't really know what to expect. But I left this movie pleasantly surprised. I've seen it twice in cinema, I think 3 or 4 times since owning it on 4K, and I think it's just one of those movies that's such an easy watch you can really just put in at any time. And coming in at number 9, I've got It Chapter 2. When it came to It Chapter 2, I didn't really know what to expect, because I heard a lot of mixed things on how the book ended, as well as a mini-series in the 90s. So I was thinking, okay, the first movie it's one of my favourite horror movies of all time. I think the first one's amazing. So I was very nervous about going into this, just because the first one was so good. What do we do expecting the second one? But I thought this movie itself, the third act, it was good. It wasn't as good and as epic as I was expecting it to be. The middle act itself kind of dragged on a good bit. But the first half and parts of the third act I really did enjoy. There's lots of elements in this movie I enjoyed, like the casting of the adult versions of the Loser Club. All those casting I think were spot on. I loved seeing Pennywise again, just the way, because he's learned, you tell he's grown, he knows that he does have enemies out there, people know about him now, so just a bit more to that. I wish we actually got to see Pennywise the clown a good bit more in this movie. We didn't get to see a lot of him. We kind of got the element and all of him disguising himself as other people. We didn't get to see much of the clown itself, but there is a lot to love about this movie. Still, I do have a lot of complaints about it. I'm looking forward to going back on it again, seeing if I can get rid of any of those complaints, because I really do want to love this movie. But it's not an amazing movie. I was just surprised about how pleasantly surprised I did leave, just because I heard a lot of backlash. So I was surprised at how much I actually did enjoy this movie. And coming in at number 8, I've got Child's Play. This was my very first Child's Play movie. It was my introduction to the character of Chucky. Now going back, I'm up to see the Chucky. I've seen that movie. I didn't like it, so I'm kind of taking a little bit of a break. So I've got 2 more movies and I've seen all the Chucky movies. But this movie, it's very different from the other Chucky movies. I think I prefer the original. Like, I think the Voodoo way is a lot better. But the whole kind of the computer angle to this movie, I didn't expect. The kills in this movie are very gory. There's one in particular where a character is hanging from the gutter and he falls and his brains get destroyed. It's so gruesome. But as well, the relationship between Chucky and Andy in this movie is by far the very best part about this movie. It's very believable. You believe that Andy had no friends. He made Chucky his best friend, and Chucky just couldn't hack it. Then he made friends. So that angle of this movie is by far the best. Also got Audrey Plaza, who I love. Audrey Plaza, she's great, but she's really good as the mother. When I heard that she was the mother, I was like, is she not a bit too young to be the mother? But it's played into this movie very well. Like, because you do believe her, even though she's very young. It mentions that she was 16 when she had him, so that kind of retcons that. But it's very believable that she is the mother as well. You got the dickhead boyfriend in this movie, who I don't know who plays him, but whoever he is, he plays him very well. So you got the cop who lives next door, I don't know who plays him as well. But he's a very good addition to this cast, and he kind of helps fill out the cast a good bit more. And he's by far probably one of the best elements about this movie. You got Mark Hamill playing Chucky, which I could hear a little bit of Joker in his voice, but other than that, I couldn't really tell it was Mark Hamill. But he did play the voice very well. And coming in at number 7, I've got Happy Death Day to You. Now, this is more Happy Death Day 1 and Happy Death Day 2, because when I seen the trailer, I was like, okay, That looks interesting. And I heard Happy Death Day 1 was really good, so again, I picked up the Blu-ray and watched it. But I didn't expect this movie to be as good, especially one, because it looked like a crap kind of comedy, or crap horror, so I didn't know what to expect. But then going into the second one, it was very surprising how well this movie was. 'Cause I didn't expect it to be as funny as it actually was. The horror isn't. It's very kind of they kind of get rid of the horror in the second one. It's more comedy in the second movie, but the actual time travel aspect to it, all our characters, even though some of them weren't, they're in the first one, but they weren't really. But our two main leads, they're very well established. There's a tear jerking moment that kind of hit. I didn't cry, but it was a very emotional moment, which I just didn't really expect from this kind of movie. I'm very disappointed. I think we're not getting any more sequels. I would have loved to see more of this franchise because I think it's a cheap franchise for them to make, and if they kept the quality going the way they were, I would be happy to keep getting loads of these. Because for what this movie was, a very small, low budget horror movie, I left very surprised and very satisfied. And coming in number 6, I've got Zombieland 2. When it comes to sequels, especially comedy sequels that take a lot of time to come out, like if you look at Zoolander 2, that took I think probably about the same length of time, and it's no good. But if you look at this movie, I think Zombieland 2, I could be wrong now, I have to see it a second time, but I'm starting to think that Zombieland 2 is actually better than Zombieland 1. Because all our characters, they work a lot better together. Like in the first one, they're kind of all establishing each other, trying to get to know each other, but because it's all established, I think their comedy works a lot better this time around. You get all the new additions, because like in the first movie, it was just the 4 characters. But this one, you get the hippie, you get the kind of the dumb blonde, you get a lot of new characters in this movie that kind of help the comedy come out a lot more. As well, our 4 main characters in the first movie are just a lot better this time around. You got Emma Stone, who is by far a lot better in this movie than she was in the first one. Like she's a very similar character, but just her comedy timing is just a lot better in this movie than I thought it was in the first one. Woody Harrelson, he's Woody Harrelson, so he's kind of very similar to as he was in the first one. Jesse Eisenberg, he feels a lot more kind of it feels like he's grown a lot more as an actor than he has in the first movie. Where the first movie, it just seems like a very much more grown up version of the character he was. Especially Little Rock, I don't know who the character's name was, but her character literally has done the biggest growth in between these two movies, and I was just so surprised by how funny this movie was. Because comedy sequels, as I said, they can be hit or miss, but I just thought this movie was absolutely hilarious, and I'd happily see it again. So I think if I had to choose, I think Zombieland 2 is actually better than Zombieland 1, and I hope we do get a sequel sometime in the near future rather than 10 years down the road. And coming in number 5, I've got Crawl. Crawl was probably one of the biggest surprises of the year, because when I was thinking it, I thought I was like, oh, it just looks like a Jaws ripoff, but with crocodiles, and it just didn't intrigue me at all. But the movie itself was very intriguing. Even though the trailer spoiled it, which if you haven't seen this movie, don't watch the trailers because it does spoil a lot. Well, I'm going to spoil it now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But the fact that they got spoiled, that they actually got out of the crawl space underneath their house, I really didn't like. I would have loved to kind of see throughout this movie what's going to happen. And I was on the edge of my seat for a lot of this, and I was very shocked throughout a lot of it. Because a lot of stuff happens in this movie I didn't think would happen, and a lot of stuff happens in this movie that I thought would happen, but didn't happen in the way I thought it was going to happen. Our lead actress, who I don't know her name, but she plays this so well as her father in this movie, they feel very much like an estranged father-daughter relationship, where they don't really have a relationship, but you can tell they still do care for each other. The crocodiles, at parts, they don't look good. A lot of the CGI in this movie isn't the best, but some of the CGI where it counts really matters. But the first time we get introduced to a crocodile or alligator, I can't remember exactly, but the first time that we get introduced to them, the CGI is terrible, and that kind of put me off the edge. I was like, when that happened, I was like, oh crap, is this what we're in for? But then throughout the movie, we don't get to see the crocodiles a lot, and it kind of it makes you very intrigued what's going to happen. It makes you wonder when they're going to jump out, and after that point, the CGI gets a lot better. It's very gruesome. It's very surprisingly how gruesome this is. But if this is a movie you haven't seen, I'd highly recommend you watching it, because this movie was so surprising for me, and I'd happily watch it again. And coming in number 4, I've got Alita: Battle Angel. This movie literally, it shocked me so much, because I seen the trailer, I'm like, yeah, that looks kind of shitty, and I had no interest whatsoever. The only reason I went to go see this movie was because I was in class at like 9 o'clock at night. I'm like, I'm bored, I don't want to be here, and I didn't want to go home. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll go cinema. I seen Alita: Battle Angel was playing in 10 minutes, like, yeah, I'll go see that. And I was so surprised by how good this movie was. The main character, I don't know the actual actress's name, but she plays it so well. I thought it'd be off-putting to actually watch the character, and like I wouldn't really feel anything for her because of her eyes and just the way she looks, where she doesn't, it's not very human looking, but her eyes, it works really well. You got Christoph Waltz, who for like half the movie I was like, who is that guy? I couldn't remember who he was, and he's very good in this movie as well. Muhammad Ali, no, it's not his name, Mahershala Ali, who's also going to be Blade. He was one as well. I was like, who is it? And then Edward Norton popping up the end. The story of this movie, it's a very much set up story where I don't think we're ever going to get a sequel. This movie's not making enough money, and Disney's not really going to entertain a sequel if it didn't make enough money. But I would love to see a sequel to this movie. Just kind of thought this movie ended up setting up more movies. This could be a franchise. I would love to see more of these, because even though it did have a very contained story where it wrapped up some of it, it wrapped up the smaller bad guy. It didn't wrap up the big bad guy that did leave it open up at the end, where there's a bigger world out there for her to explore. So it could end here. I wish it didn't end here. I'd love a sequel, but I don't think we actually will get a sequel. But this movie itself, I loved it, and if you haven't seen it, I'd highly recommend you seeing it. It's one that you really should have seen on the big screen, because I got the Blu-ray a couple of days ago. I haven't actually gone back watching it, but I don't think watching it on your TV is going to be the same as watching it on the big screen. I think the big screen is the ultimate viewing experience for this movie. So I think if you missed it in cinema, it's one you don't watch on your phone, but iPad or TV is the next best thing. You missed it big time not watching it on cinema. And coming in number 3, I've got El Camino, a Breaking Bad movie. I was very, very nervous about this movie just because I thought Breaking Bad was a phenomenal show. Not Breaking Bad, but you got Better Call Saul, which is also, it's an incredible show that people don't give enough credit to. So I was very nervous, like, okay, what happens if this movie's bad? What happens if we didn't need this? Now, I think this movie would have been a lot better if we did get it right after the actual TV show ended instead of leaving all this space. I think it would have been received a lot better because a lot of the actors wouldn't have aged or changed physically as they have in this movie. But other than that, this story I thought was incredible. I thought it was a perfect continuation for Jesse's story. It's not how I thought it was going to go, and I'm really glad it wasn't. I wouldn't mind if we got another kind of Breaking Bad movie following someone else from after what happened. I can't imagine we would, but I wouldn't mind seeing another one just because I thought how good this movie was. I wouldn't mind seeing another Breaking Bad movie, but just leave Jesse as he is. I think his ending is perfect. Just leave him alone. And coming in number 2, I've got Fighting With My Family. Just like Alita Battle Angel, I seen the trailers and I thought, no, not for me. And I wasn't really intrigued in this movie. But then I heard it got really good reviews. I'm like, okay, I'll go give it a shot. And this movie, it's really good. Of course, this is my first introduction to Florence Pugh, who I think is an incredible actress. If you haven't seen Midsommar, you should watch Midsommar. She's incredible in that. But this movie itself, I was so surprised at how much I really enjoyed this movie. It's a coming of age movie where she's learning to become who she is going to be, and you got great, like, Vince Vaughn is incredible. He's like, I've never really seen Vince Vaughn. Like, of course I've seen him in Hacksaw Ridge and other dramatic roles, but he's always been the funny guy to me. I always see him, I think, in comedies, but in this movie he plays it really well. You got The Rock as well playing The Rock, and he's The Rock, so there's nothing else you can say. You got Nick Frost, and I think Laura Holt, her name is. She's also in Game of Thrones. She plays Queen Cersei. But those two, they're very good as her parents, and there's her relationship with them. It feels very much like a parent-daughter relationship, as well as her brother being very jealous of her. He plays that really well, and you feel her pain throughout this movie. There's lots of scenes where it focuses on her being alone, being struggling, and you feel her. You feel that this is tough what she's doing. Fair play to her for what she's doing, because this is all a true story. So she literally went through all this heartbreak and pain to get to where she was. So I understand how much pain she went through, because this is very hard. I imagine her journey was a lot harder than this, just because I think it's a movie. They're going to turn it a bit. So I think what she went through either was a lot easier than this, which I don't really imagine because I would make a movie about it, but I imagine it was a lot harder than this. And coming in at number 1, I've got Aladdin. Aladdin, it surprised me so much. The trailers I thought were awful. Hadn't listened to the songs before going in because I like to do that for Disney movies. I like to learn the songs in the movie, but the trailers were terrible. The actual casting, nothing really intrigued me about the casting. And then just seeing the reviews, it got very mixed reviews, and then I just didn't care. Disney live action remakes at this point, so I was like, oh yeah, another one. And I wasn't really intrigued. But actually leaving it the first time, I didn't like it. But the second time, and I've seen it third time now since owning the Blu-ray, so I've seen it 3 times now, and the second and third time I loved it. The music in this movie, I love it. I think Prince Ali in this movie is better than it is in the anime version, in my opinion. Will Smith as a genie is phenomenal. Naomi Scott as Jasmine is so much better than she actually is in the anime version. I actually don't know the guy's name. I don't know the guy who plays Aladdin, but he's alright. He's not incredible. He's complaining at the moment that he hasn't got any kind of casting or any roles since this movie. I understand we will get Aladdin sequel, so just kind of hold out a bit. I understand it's a bit frustrating that you aren't getting anything, but this movie, it's not anything. I didn't expect it to be as good as this. I thought it would be crap. I was expecting this movie to be terrible, but I actually really enjoyed this movie. It's in my top 20 this year, I think. I just, the music, the whole landscape of this movie, it's incredible in 4K. The colors are bouncing off the screen. The story, even though it's very similar to the original, it works really, really well in live action. Where the Lion King didn't work in live action because it's just animals. But this is people, and it works so well. If you haven't seen this movie, I'd highly recommend it. Like my brother and sister, they prefer the live action version to the anime version. So this movie, I was just so surprised how much I actually really did enjoy this. That's why it comes at number one. Let me know what your ranking is of all these movies of this year, because I think it's very diverse. It's a very mixed opinion. No one's gonna have the same ranking. It'd be very odd if we did have all have the same ranking. So let me know what your list of the top 10 most surprising movies of 2019 is. Click that subscribe button so you can come back to see my ranking of all my top 10 favorite of this year, top 10 of the decade, as well as top 10 biggest disappointments of this year. So if you want to see all that kind of stuff, click that subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.